Okay, I've started the recording. And then for the purposes of the record, I know this is backwards. We are starting at 9:32 a.m. on December 10th, 2025. My name is Abigail Zeman. I will be taking the deposition of Mrs. Linda Starmer on behalf of the Donovan family. The attorney here defending the deposition is Mr. Joseph Bang. And then we also have David Palmer representing Charles Duncan Jr., as well as my co-counsel, Jose Hernandez. Just a note, Jose, I believe, has to step out in about probably less than an hour because he has another obligation. If anyone has any comments to make, otherwise I will continue swearing in Mrs. Starmer. Perfect. All right, Mrs. Starmer, could you please raise your right hand for me? And do you solemnly swear, promise, or affirm that the testimony you will give in this deposition today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Perfect. Now, good morning, Mrs. Starmer. As I said, my name is Abigail Zeman, and I'm representing the Donovan family in this matter. Have you ever been deposed before?
No.
And has your attorney explained the deposition process to you prior to today?
Yes.
Perfect. And do you understand that you are indeed under oath, just as if you were testifying in a courtroom?
Yes.
And do you also understand that your testimony has the same force and effect as if it was given in an open court before a judge and a jury?
Yes.
Now, before we begin, I just want to establish a couple of ground rules with you. So if you don't understand anything that I'm asking you, would you please let me know?
Yes.
And if you don't tell me that you don't understand a question that I ask, I'll just assume that you understood the question. Is that fair to you?
Yes.
And if you need a break at any time, please just let me know and we can take one. Is that okay?
Yes.
And now, Mrs. Starmer, have you taken any medication today that would affect your ability to give me clear testimony?
No.
And are you under the care of any physician for any condition that would affect your testimony today?
No.
Okay, perfect. Now, could you please state your full name for the record?
Linda Starmer,
And what's your current address, if you know off the top of your head? We'll just insert it in post if that's okay.
4141 Boca Bay Drive, Dallas.
Okay, perfect. And do you know how long that you've lived at that address?
Probably 14, 15 years.
Okay. And Mrs. Starmer, are you married?
Yes.
And who are you married to?
Ralph Starmer.
And do you know how long that the two of you have been married?
About 18 years.
And do you have any children?
Yes, we had 4 children.
And can you please just tell me their names and their ages?
Susan is 18. Next would have been Sheila, who was 15. Andy or Andrew, who is 14, and Rusty or Russell, who is 9.
Perfect. Now, Mrs. Starmer, I understand this might be a bit difficult, but I would like to learn a little bit more about Sheila specifically. Could you please tell me what kind of person that she was?
She was joyful. She was energetic. She enjoyed sports. She had a lot of friends. She was just a happy child.
And what kind of sports did she participate in?
She played volleyball and softball in high school.
And was there anything that she liked to do for fun?
Hang out with her friends and her family.
Would you say that Sheila was a pretty social person?
She was social.
And did Sheila have any favorite subjects at school?
I think she was pretty an all around student. She enjoyed all of her academics. I can't think of one specifically that she liked better than the other.
Yeah. And you also said that she played volleyball and softball. Had she been playing sports since she was pretty young?
Yes.
Okay. And did she have any plans or academic goals after high school?
She wanted to go to college and hopefully play sports in college at that level.
Okay, perfect. Would you talk to me a little bit about Sheila's relationship with you in particular?
We had a very good, close relationship. Um, it was a normal mother-daughter relationship.
And what kinds of things would you and Sheila do together?
We would play tennis. We would shop. We would have visits with my oldest daughter who was away at school. So the three girls, we would get together and go to my oldest daughter's campus at TCU and hang out and shop and have coffee and just normal girl things.
And what about Sheila's relationship with her father, your husband, Ralph? How was that?
She had a good relationship with her dad.
And what kinds of things did they like to do together?
They like to play tennis together. They like to. Uh, he was very active in her sports life. He liked to coach her in the yard and throw the ball to her, or put up a volleyball net and hit the volleyball in the backyard. He was very active with her.
And you've mentioned that both you and your husband used to play tennis with Sheila. Is that kind of a family thing that you all do together?
It is. We play at the country club and around our home in Dallas.
Okay, perfect. And I know that you mentioned that your eldest daughter, Susan, goes to TCU, and sometimes you and Sheila would go and visit her. Was Sheila pretty close with Susan as well?
She was very close with Susan.
And would she go to visit Susan at all at TCU?
Yes, with me she would. She didn't go alone. She would go when I would go. We would go together.
Okay, perfect. And were those typically day trips, or did you stay overnight on the weekends sometimes?
Sometimes we would stay on over the weekend.
Okay, perfect. And was Sheila close with any extended family, like maybe her grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins?
Her grandparents, she was close with her grandparents before they passed away. But her biggest relationships or her closest relationships were with her siblings.
And you also mentioned Andrew and Russell, your two sons.
Right.
Did Sheila do anything with either of your sons?
They played sports together. They played tennis as well. And they would be in the yard with her and their dad, throwing the softball or playing volleyball or just playing tennis.
And you also mentioned a country club. Which country club do you guys go to?
Let me recall the name of it. Is it Brookhaven Country? I think it's Brookhaven Country Club.
Okay, perfect. And how often does your family go out there?
More than once a week, multiple times a week. Sometimes it's once, sometimes it's 4 days. It varied.
Okay. And apart from tennis at the country club, what are some other things that you would do together?
Swim, we would go swimming, we would lay out by the pool, we would eat dinner in the restaurant at the club, and mostly we play tennis.
Okay. You also mentioned that Sheila was a pretty social person. Did she have a close group of friends at the high school?
She did.
And would you have considered her more outgoing, or was she sort of shy and a little reserved?
She was outgoing.
Okay. And you mentioned that Sheila had participated in sports. Was she involved in any other school activities or clubs?
I can't recall. She was just a freshman, so not really at that point.
Okay. You also mentioned Sheila was hoping to go to college and potentially play some sports. Did she have a dream job or any career goals or anything like that?
Really didn't get that far in our discussions of her future. Um, I know she was interested maybe in nursing, and TCU has a great program, so I think she was going to follow in her sister's footsteps and try to get into TCU.
Right. And, you know, being Sheila's mom, was there anything that you hoped for in her future?
Just for her to be happy, finish school, get married, have children, and just enjoy her life as any parent. That's what any parent wants for their child.
Yeah. Now, Mrs. Starmer, I do need to ask you a few questions about the day of the accident and afterwards. And as I said previously, I understand that this is very difficult. So if we need to take a moment or a break, please just let me know. Where were you on Labor Day weekend in 2024?
My husband and I were out of town in, I want to say Massachusetts, but it's all really a blur at this point.
Yeah, I understand. Um, and Sheila was in Dallas, is that correct? That
That's
weekend?
correct. That's correct.
And before you had left to go to Massachusetts that weekend, did Sheila seem, pretty normal and high spirits?
Yes.
And do you know what Sheila's plan was for that weekend?
I do not know specific plans before we left. You know, we knew she would hang out with friends because it was a holiday weekend, but specifically, I didn't know when we left for our trip.
And do you recall who Sheila would have been staying with that weekend?
She had a handful of really good friends that she went to school with. And I think she was, if I recall, she was staying with Melanie Gerlemon that weekend, which is one of her best friends.
Okay. And was Sheila going to Was she staying with a group of friends that weekend? My apologies if I already asked that question. Um, just a group of high school friends.
Yeah.
And their families as well.
Right.
Okay. Mrs. Starmer, when did you first learn that there had been an accident?
We got a phone call while we were out of town informing us of the accident, of the collision.
And do you know who specifically made that phone call?
I don't recall.
And when they did call you, what did they tell you?
They actually spoke with Ralph. And then
Okay.
he passed the bad news on to me.
And what did they tell Ralph?
There was a accident in which our daughter was killed, a boating accident.
Could you describe your reaction?
Shock, devastation, disbelief, grief.
Mrs. Starmer, kind of knowing what you know now, what is your understanding of how that accident happened?
You know, I really don't know all of the details of how it happened. Obviously, I can't ask my daughter because she's not with us anymore. But what I do know is what I've read in the petition that my attorney filed. I know that Stephen Donovan was driving the boat in which Sheila was a passenger. He was not wearing prescription glasses that he should have been wearing. And he was not paying attention, apparently, and that there were no lights on his boat. And concerning the other boat, I know that the driver, Mr. Duncan, had been drinking and was speeding in his boat, and the two boats collided.
Okay. And have you learned this information about the collision just from a variety of sources since the accident?
That's correct.
And could you name, it doesn't have to be, super specific, but just name a couple of those sources of information, for example, police reports or witnesses, other people that might have told you?
I read the original petition. I read a newspaper article that gave some description of the events. I think that's all that I've viewed. And then just talking with my husband, I don't know who he's spoken with specifically, but he had some information that he made me aware of. And we also spoke, Mrs. Donovan and I spoke with the gentleman that was in the fishing boat on the night of the incident. And he gave a little bit of information about what he saw or what he knew because he was there.
Okay. And do you recall any specifics about that particular conversation with the man in the fishing boat?
Only that he came up, he heard the collision. He did not see it, but when he got to it, there was only the one boat there. It was only the boat with my daughter in it. The Duncan boat had already left. And he is the one that went to land and made the call to the emergency personnel.
And to clarify, when you say he, do you mean the gentleman in the fishing boat?
Yeah, Mr. Harmon.
Okay, perfect. Do you happen to know what kind of boat Mr. Charles Duncan Jr. was driving that night of the accident?
I read that he was in a large power boat. They refer to it as a power boat. It apparently moves at a high rate of speed.
Okay. And from what I understand from your testimony today, you also understand that it was Mr. Duncan's boat that did indeed strike the boat that Sheila and some other teenagers were in, correct?
I don't know who struck who. All I know is that the boats collided.
Okay.
I don't have that. I don't have those details.
And just based off of some of the things that you've heard and the information that you've learned since the accident, do you have any ideas about what caused this accident?
Again, I only know what I've read. I'm not going to speculate on who did what. I only know that they were both wrong. And there were certain things that each of the drivers did that they shouldn't have done.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Starmer, I want to talk to you a little bit about Mr. Charles Duncan Jr.'s conduct the night of the accident. You'd mentioned previously that you had learned that Mr. Duncan had been drinking alcohol that day, correct?
Yes.
And was there anything other than just the fact that he had been consuming alcohol that you learned about it?
Well, I read that he had been drinking. I read that he was speeding. And I also read that he didn't even stop to render any kind of aid or assistance to those kids in that boat after the collision.
And would you agree that approaching the marina entrance as Mr. Duncan was doing at a high rate of speed at nighttime was dangerous for him?
Objection form.
You can respond, or I can rephrase as well.
Um, I'm no expert on how a boat should be operated. I only know that it's common sense. Some of it's common sense. You don't speed, you don't drink and drive. If you're supposed to wear glasses, you wear them. If you're supposed to have lights on your boat that illuminate so other boats can see you, you put those lights on. But those are common sense things, in my opinion.
And I know that maybe you can't necessarily speak to driving a boat, but the same rules would apply to, for example, if you were driving a car, correct?
Absolutely.
And you would probably think that someone who had been drinking shouldn't be operating a vehicle, especially if it was carrying passengers and other people.
That's correct.
And is it your understanding that the boat that Mr. Duncan was driving was much bigger than the boat that Sheila and the other teenagers were in, correct?
Yes, I believe it was 18 feet larger than the boat that Sheila was in.
And you also mentioned that you heard that Mr. Duncan didn't return to the boat after the accident had occurred. I guess, how does that make you feel?
Not very good. It's almost unbelievable that a human being could leave another human being. That's like take it back to your car analogy, like seeing a terrible collision on this interstate and you don't stop to help people. I can't fathom it.
If I were to tell you that Mr. Duncan says that he didn't realize that he had hit another boat at first, I guess, what are your thoughts about that?
I would find that hard to swallow.
Do you know at all if Mr. Duncan called 911 or attempted to get emergency help after the accident?
I don't know.
And Mrs. Starmer, has Mr. Duncan reached out to you or your family since the accident?
No,
Has Mr. Duncan apologized to you or your family since the accident?
no,
And has he expressed any remorse to you or your family since the accident?
no.
Mrs. Starmer, do you believe that Mr. Duncan's drinking alcohol that day could have been a part of a cause to the accident?
Objection
Yes.
form.
Yes,
And do you believe that his excessive speed could have been a cause of the accident?
Objection form.
yes, yes,
And for example, if Mr. Duncan hadn't been drinking that day, do you believe that the accident would have still occurred?
Objection form.
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Okay. Mrs. Starmer, in your view, do you feel that Mr. Duncan is responsible for the death of your daughter, Sheila?
I feel like he is part of the reason that my daughter is dead.
And Mrs. Starmer, have you heard anyone in your conversations since the accident discuss the fact that Stephen Donovan was driving the jet boat that Sheila was in?
I've read that, yes.
And have you heard anything specifically about Stephen and driving that boat? And if so, could you please tell me?
Only what I've already stated, that I read that he wasn't wearing his prescribed glasses, corrective lenses, and that there were apparently running lights on the vessel that were not on, so it wasn't illuminated.
Okay. And do you recall who or I guess how you found that information out?
I read it in the original petition.
Okay. So that's something that your attorneys have told you then.
That's correct.
Okay. If I were to tell you that, did we lose someone? Sorry. Oh, is it just Jose? Okay, we're good. Okay. Mrs. Starmer, what do you know about Stephen Donovan's boating experience?
I don't know anything about his boating experience.
Okay. So, I mean, safe to say that you wouldn't know whether or not Stephen was a capable boat driver.
I wouldn't know.
And you wouldn't know whether or not Stephen was involved in any prior boating accidents, correct?
That's correct.
And before this particular collision, had anyone ever expressed any concern to you about Stephen's ability to operate a boat?
No.
You also mentioned the Stephen's vision issues previously. And I noticed that the petition does mention that Stephen has glasses. And do you have any other kind of personal understanding about his vision issues?
I read somewhere, and I don't recall where, that there's a restriction on his driver's license that he must have corrective lenses when operating a motor vehicle. I don't remember where I read that.
Okay. And you wouldn't specifically know what level of vision impairment he has, correct?
That's correct.
And as far as you know, you don't have specific evidence that Stephen's vision played a role in the collision other than that it was just at nighttime, correct?
Correct.
And Mrs. Starmer, would you agree that parents have to sometimes make judgment calls about what their children can and cannot do?
Yes.
And if I were to represent to you that Stephen has several years of boating experience, would you be willing to agree with me that allowing a teenager who is experienced and trained to operate a boat, that's not necessarily dangerous?
Objection form.
I cannot agree with you on that. If it was a teenager who was 19 and had been driving for 4 or 5 years, maybe, but a 15-year-old newly licensed, I mean, that's still almost adolescent, in my opinion. So I'm not comfortable agreeing with you on that.
Okay, no worries. Mrs. Starmer, do you allow, you've mentioned the country club. Would you say that you have let your children do activities that involve some risk, for example, driving sports, swimming, things like that, correct?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that despite all your best efforts, that parents can't eliminate every risk from their children's lives?
I agree and I disagree. I agree that some of the activities, obviously, they play basketball or volleyball and they get hurt. That's just part of playing those athletics. But I certainly wouldn't let, my 15-year-old at night operate a boat or for that matter, drive on an interstate out of town somewhere at that young age. I wouldn't do it.
Now, Mrs. Starmer, were you aware that the Donovan's daughter, Stacy, was also in the boat the night of the accident?
Yes.
And are you also aware that Stacy Donovan died in this collision as well?
Yes.
Now, Stacy was also 15 years old. Is that correct, or your understanding?
Yes.
And so the Donovans unfortunately did lose their daughter in this same collision that took the life of your daughter, Sheila.
Yes.
Would you I'm gonna strike that for the record. Do you view the Donovans responsible for the accident?
Parents? You're asking me about
Correct.
Donovan parents? I do.
And would you also consider them victims in this case as well?
I think that they're wearing both hats.
Now, Mrs. Starmer, what is your opinion on Ralph, or not Ralph? What is your opinion on the Donovans' responsibility regarding this accident?
I feel that they should have never let their 15-year-old operate a boat at night. I feel that if it were, all I can say is if the shoe were on the other foot and it was my son operating the boat, what I would have done is call the other parents of the children that were going to be on that vessel and say, hey, just want to make sure it's okay. He's going to take the boat out. It's a holiday. They're going to take the boat out. He's going to be driving. Do you have a problem with that? I've always checked if one of my kids was going to spend the night somewhere. I always made that phone call to the other parent just to give them a heads up. This is what the plan is. This is where they're going. Do you have a problem with, my daughter driving to the movies or to the mall or whatever? I've always, and I do feel like they should have, number one, they should have never let him take that boat out at night with his inexperience. And number two, if they were going to let him, then they should have let those other parents, us and the other girls' parents, know that this is the plan. Do you have a problem with it? But that's my parenting versus their parenting.
Okay. And now it's my understanding that you know the Donovan family, correct, personally?
Correct.
And do you know about how long that your families have known each other?
The kids have grown up together. Kids have gone through school together, so several years.
And would you describe your families as close?
Yes, we were.
And did you socialize together? Did you go to family gatherings?
We socialized and we did things together because of the kids' relationship.
And my understanding is that Sheila and Stacy both knew each other, correct?
Correct.
And what was their relationship like?
They were close friends.
And do you know how long that they had known each other?
For several years, they went to school together.
Okay, and it's my understanding that both Sheila and Stacy attended the same kindergarten. In fact, looks like Cherry Hill at Exford Lee School. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And would you say that Sheila and Stacy were involved in the same social groups?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know, had Sheila been to Lake Texoma with the Donovan family previously?
She had, but yes, she had.
Okay. Do you know how many times that would have been approximately?
I don't know.
And previously to the accident, was there ever problems that came up relating to Sheila being out there with the Donovans?
No,
And did you ever have any concerns about Sheila while she was away on those trips?
no, because the parents were there.
And did you, as a family, ever go all together out to Lake Texoma with the Donovans?
Um, I don't recall ever going out there with them. I know Sheila went out there with them as a family several times, but Ralph likes to fish, but we don't go out to the lake much.
Okay. Would it be safe to say that prior to the accident, you did trust the Donovans with your daughter's safety?
I did.
Mrs. Starmer, I know you mentioned that you and Linda Donovan had spoken to the gentleman on the fishing boat after the accident. Have you or Ralph had any contact with either Jack or Linda Donovan since the accident?
No.
And why would you say, or why do you think that you haven't been in contact?
Well, it's strained, obviously. And then it was already strained, and then the lawsuit just put the big rift between the families.
And my understanding is that your children, or at least some of your children, are still close with some of the Donovan's remaining children as well. Um, I mean, I guess, has that been difficult given the accident?
I'm not really aware of the Donovan children's relationship with my two boys. I assume that's who you're talking about. But it's a very strained relationship, at least parent to parent. The Donovan parents and us, it's very strained.
And you had mentioned a little bit about your feelings regarding how Linda and Jack Donovan may have contributed to the accident. And I apologize if I've asked this again, but if you could kind of explain to me your opinions about their responsibility or how they handled Stephen and letting him use the boat. If you could just kind of explain, I guess, your thoughts and feelings to me about that.
I just feel like it was not responsible or prudent to allow Stephen to take that boat out, especially at night. I didn't know he was taking it out without his parents. I had no idea. And I just feel like that was a big contributor to the accident. His inexperience, his age, just the nighttime conditions. Would his dad have handled the situation differently had he been driving the boat? I don't know, but I would like to think that, yeah, he's an adult, that he would have. And I tune it back to driving a car. You know, you got a 15-year-old behind the wheel. I don't care if they practice in the Civic Center parking lot driving, took their driving test and got their license. They are inexperienced at that age. And I just feel like they allowed their child, who is inexperienced, to get behind the wheel of that boat with 3 other children. And it was not the prudent thing to do. And I blame them. Stephen did his share of wrong things, but ultimately, the parents allowing it to happen, it's wrong.
So is it my understanding that you were unaware of the fact that the Donovans let Stephen drive the boat at all?
I don't know about at all. All I can say is that night I thought they were on the boat. I thought it was a family thing. I didn't know he was going to be driving. We did not know he was going to be driving the boat.
So you didn't necessarily know that Sheila had been on a boat driven by Stephen previously at all?
Not without the parents on the boat. He may have driven it, but his parents were there.
And if, let's say, for example, Stephen was driving the boat with his parents, would that have been something that you would have felt better about that situation than had he been driving the boat without his parents, correct?
Correct.
And I'm understanding that another part of your concern that night was that the accident occurred in the evening and it was dark out. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so you would have felt more comfortable if Mr. Donovan, for example, was driving the boat than Stephen.
Yes.
Do you believe that the Donovans wanted anything bad to happen to Stephen or Stacy, for example, by
No.
allowing Stephen. Okay.
No.
And although it's not necessarily your parenting style, would you believe that the Donovans allowing Stephen to drive their boat, not necessarily on the day of the accident, was something that they felt was safe?
I don't know. I can't speak for them. I don't know.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Starmer, I understand that this is also going to be somewhat of a difficult topic, but I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about how the loss of Sheila has affected you and your family. Could you just kind of start by describing to me how Sheila's passing in particular has affected you?
Yes. Obviously, any parent that loses a child goes through emotions that are indescribable, depression, no zest for life. You might be walking through the mall and see something that reminds you of your child and you start crying. I mean, the emotions consume you. You don't want to get up in the morning, don't want to close your eyes at night because you'll dream about your child. It's had a profound effect on me, which in turn has had a profound effect on the rest of the family.
And are there things that have changed with your daily routine since the accident?
Yes, there are some things, and maybe not every day, but there are a lot of days where I don't even want to get out of bed, much less go exercise or walking or playing tennis, which are things I've always loved doing. I think it has affected my relationship with my husband, with my children. I'm not as engaged, I guess is the word I'm looking for, in just the daily life things that a parent is engaged in with their children and with their husband. We've all handled it differently. I just find that I'm having a more difficult time having that relationship with my other children that I previously had. And I can't explain it. I don't know why that is.
Now, it's my understanding that that you've seen a couple of doctors to deal with some of the emotional trauma of the accident. Have you been diagnosed with anything since the accident?
Yes, chronic depression and PTSD by Dr. Gordon.
And I know that we had a discussion about some of the dates, but were these diagnoses things that occurred closely following the accident?
I had the the problems and the issues from the time of the accident till today. But we sought treatment things had deteriorated, the family dynamic has deteriorated such that we decided to seek treatment from a psychologist. And that's when we went to Dr. Gordon.
And are you currently in treatment as well?
Yes.
And what kinds of treatment are you involved in?
Just counseling. I do individual counseling and we do family counseling with Dr. Gordon.
Okay, and does that involve your eldest daughter and your children as well?
Yes.
And were you prescribed any sort of medication to deal with either the chronic depression or PTSD diagnosis?
I'm not taking any medication for that, no.
Okay. Mrs. Starmer, how often would you say that you think about Sheila and the accident?
Every day.
Would you say that, I guess, do you have any difficulty sleeping?
I do. I have difficulty sleeping. I have difficulty not sleeping. I have difficulty. There are triggers throughout the day and night that bring up memories. And it's trying to find a coping mechanism to deal with those things when they do pop up. That's the most difficult thing.
And is that something that through Dr. Gordon and other treatment that you're trying to work on?
That's correct.
You mentioned this a little bit, but what things in particular are harder for you now that Sheila is no longer here?
Really, everything. There are constant reminders. If we go out to eat at a normal restaurant, it might have been her favorite. You smell a certain scent and it reminds you of your child. You see her friends and you long for your child to be there with her group of friends. Just every day there's something. It's a constant reminder.
And are there certain things that you or activities that you completely avoid now?
I don't play tennis now. I don't completely avoid it, but I don't do it anymore, really. Because we used to do that together.
Have you been out to Lake Texoma since the accident?
No, that's another thing I avoid.
And have you been on a boat since the accident?
No.
How has this affected your relationship with your husband, Ralph?
It's strained as well. It's just a lot of grief, and it's hard to pull yourself out of the depression to try to be happy. So it's affected my relationship with him and my relationship with the other kids.
Would you say that you have sort of bad days and good days, or is it pretty, are the feelings that you have pretty consistent?
They're pretty consistent, but some days, there are days that, maybe I won't have the depressing memories. I'll have a happy memory. I'll see something that reminds me of a happy time with her. But every day There are not many good days. I'll just put it like that.
What would you say specifically that you miss most about Sheila?
Just her presence in our life.
How I think that you said that your sons Andrew and Russell are still at home with you. How has home life changed for them without Sheila around?
There's a lot less joy in the house without Sheila around, and it's felt by everybody.
Do you still have Sheila's room at home set up?
Yes.
And has anything changed in there since the accident?
Other than she's not in it.
Before Sheila passed away, was she helping around the house? Did she have any chores?
They all had chores, yes. They were responsible for their room, for keeping their rooms clean and their bathrooms clean.
And was there anything, what kinds of things other than keeping your room clean did Sheila do?
She would help me with the dishes. She loved to cook. So we would cook together. She liked to prepare the table, set the table, because we would sit as a family and have dinner. Just little things. I couldn't even probably start to tell you everything. But those are the big things that she enjoyed.
And did Sheila did she have a job, or did she have any ways that she was earning money?
No, she would babysit.
And how long had she been babysitting for?
Probably since she was maybe a couple years, 13, 14 years old.
Okay. And did she was she doing that for just a couple of families around the neighborhood, or?
Yes.
Mrs. Starmer, did you, I guess I want to talk a little bit about, if you know, about the funeral expenses relating to this case. Did you have to pay anything for Sheila's funeral and burial?
You'll have to talk to Ralph about that. I don't know what he paid.
Mm. Mrs. Starmer, immediately after the accident, we've kind of talked a little bit about kind of your treatment since the accident, but I want to focus specifically on kind of how things were immediately after Labor Day weekend. I'm just wondering if you could describe kind of how things were for the first couple of days after Sheila's passing.
Probably the best way to explain it, it was like we were in a fog. Just, I don't really even remember specific things that I did. You wake up, you eat a little bit, and you go to sleep. It was, yes, that's what grief is. I didn't feel that when my parents died. I could function. But after Sheila died, I couldn't even function with just daily tasks. I just couldn't.
And did you find it difficult to get out of bed? Were you spending most of the day in bed?
I found it difficult to get out of bed, but I had two other children that I had to function at some level for them. So I think that, it's sort of automatic as a mother. You just do it. But it was as if you're doing it in a fog.
Did you have to get any family or friends to help out after the accident at all with things around the house?
I didn't.
And I guess how would you say that your husband Ralph was handling the loss immediately after you had found out?
He was in a fog as well. He may have been a little more, had more anger. Maybe I had more disbelief and he had more anger. But we were both pretty non-functional.
Mrs. Starmer, I don't believe that I asked, but do you work at all?
I do not work. I've not worked in several years.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm gonna ask a little bit more about your family, if that's all right. You said that your eldest is off at TCU, Susan. He's a nursing
Right.
student. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And just based on your observations, has she been able to, I mean, has anything changed with her since the accident?
She's probably had the most difficult time adjusting because she was very close with her sister, even though they were living apart. They were extremely close. There was only a 3-year age gap. And I think I would confidently say that if you asked either one of the girls who their best friend was, they would name their sister.
Mrs. Starmer, do you recall when it was that you had decided to file this lawsuit?
I don't recall when. I couldn't tell you when it was filed. I don't remember when it was filed.
Do you know if it was a decision that you had made, or Ralph, or collectively both of you?
We both made the decision. We wanted more.
And based upon your beliefs and thoughts, why would you say that you filed the lawsuit?
For answers. It was our only avenue for her death to be investigated, picked apart, no stone left unturned. And we were confident that our attorneys would get the answers that we were looking for.
And do you feel that you were unable to receive those answers through the investigation that has been conducted, for example, by the police or any responders?
I don't think we've gotten the answers that we were seeking. The when, why, where, who, and what. We didn't get that. We have some of it now because we hired an attorney who opened up that book and did all of the investigation and continues to investigate it.
Would you expect that Mr. Duncan will take responsibility through this lawsuit?
I think that I read that he filed an answer denying any culpability, denying that he was speeding, denied that he was unsafe. So, I guess, yeah, he's already denied that any wrongdoing.
And do you expect that the Donovans will take responsibility through this lawsuit?
Again, I think I read that they filed a denial as well. I read their answer. And I think they filed an answer and a claim against Mr. Duncan. So not only are they not accepting responsibility, they're putting the responsibility all on the other boat driver.
All right, I might have to potentially either pass or go off the record because I'm going to need to find some additional questions here to reach time limit.
That's okay. Yeah, we can take a recess if you want to.
Okay,
We want to say off the record at 10:46.
sounds good to me.
Okay. Why don't we just take how long do you think you'll need? Like 10 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what is adequate for the 2-hour timing here.
Yeah. Do you know what, because I know the timer started whenever we joined the call. Do you know what time, like what the timer was saying whenever you started?
Well, I know we officially went on at like 9:30, so I'm still looking at like another 40 minutes, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, you know, Joe, it's your client, so what are you thinking?
I mean, yeah, I that was one of the things I realized with my depot. It just the time drags, like the
It's a long
questions.
time, 2 hours.
And I know that this witness just doesn't have a ton of personal knowledge of events, so it's hard to get questions out. I
Well,
don't
my
know.
cert,
Uh-huh.
um, okay, well,
Maybe like I would probably like I don't know, give it to ChatGPT and just say like ask me or give me questions to ask that that'll
Huh,
expand in more like
Joe's a bang.
that's what I would do. That's what I would do. I don't know.
He doesn't
I
know
know
what
I know this
ChatGPT
this is
is.
a tough witness to do a deposition for.
no, I just feel bad. I don't want to I was trying not to ask the same stuff over and over again, but I think I might have to overlap a little bit, understanding that
That's
I'll
fine.
get objections, but okay.
Why don't we take 10 minutes and we can come back and we can see where you're at, kind of reconvene on that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right. Great.
Thank you all.
Of course.
digest the film sensor. If this is a life-threatening emergency, please hang up and dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room. For prescription refills, please contact your pharmacy. Please listen carefully to all options as our menu has recently changed. If you are with Lake Charles Memorial Health System and are calling in a hospital consult, press 1. To schedule an office visit or check on a referral status,
You mute your mic.
What?
cancel
Mute your
or
mic.
schedule an office visit only, press 3.
Hang on. I don't know how.
You go to the top right next to where it says leave in red and then click mute mic. It's the picture of the microphone.
Up here? No. Where do I go?
You see the hang up button that says leave the red telephone?
Oh, yeah.
Go to the left two icons. It says mic. Click that.
That?
Yeah. And then when we come back on the record, we'll unmute you.
How are you feeling, Abby?
Well, I don't know if that necessarily matters, but we'll make it through.
Okay, all right.
All right. Are we, or Joe, are you still here?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We'll go back on the record at 11:01 a.m. Thank you for allowing me my break, everyone. I appreciate it. Mrs. Starmer, I'm going to kind of circle back to some of the things that we've already talked about, if that's all right with you. I want to talk a little bit more about the relationship dynamic between you and your husband, Ralph, since the accident and Sheila's passing. Have you experienced any sort of conflict with each other since the accident?
Yes.
And what kinds of things do you two tend to argue about?
Really little things that, just household stuff, and he's gone a lot and help with the other kids, and you know, I feel like maybe he doesn't support me emotionally, and you'll have to ask him, but he probably feels the same way about me because we can barely support ourselves, much less each other emotionally. It just has caused a lot of conflict.
Would you say that you're a little bit more open about things than your husband is?
Yes.
And has Ralph had any resistance to the therapy that the family has been seeking?
Not to me, he hasn't. If he's voiced that to the doctor, I'm unaware of it.
I want to talk a little bit more about the specifics since Sheila's passing and kind of how it has affected the family routine. Prior to Sheila's passing, what did sort of a typical morning look like for you and your family?
Like a school morning, on a
Yeah.
typical school morning. Well, we would get up, everybody would obviously get up, and I would fix breakfast and make the lunches, and Ralph would, we'd all eat breakfast together and have like our little family discussions, and this is what I've got planned today. What are you doing today? This is what's going on. This is what's not going on. And we would just have those conversations at the breakfast table. Then, of course, Ralph would leave for work. The kids would leave for school. I would take them to school, and it would all start again in the evening. We would do the sporting. If somebody had a sporting event, we'd all go to that. We were a very close-knit family, and we tried to all participate in the extracurricular activities of each of the kids.
Would you say that Sheila, was she more of a morning person, or were you having to go into her room each morning and wake her up and get her ready for school?
Now, I think that they all were pretty good about getting up in the morning.
And you had mentioned Were there any extracurricular activities that your sons were involved in as well?
They were also involved in sports. They also played tennis. I guess you could say we played tennis as a family. They like to fish with their dad. They played sports, practiced with their sister, in the yard, like I mentioned previously. So they were pretty active.
And was Sheila involved a lot in going to support her brothers in their own activities and sports and things like that?
Yes.
On a typical school day in the afternoons, after Sheila and your other kids were done with school, what did those kind of evenings look like for you?
You mean after everybody got home?
Yes.
Homework, dinner. Again, we were close knit, so we would all sit to dinner together. We ate together. We might, if there was a football game on or something, we might watch that together. And then, normally by 10 or 10:30, it was lights out and everybody was in bed getting ready for the next day.
And other than football, what kinds of things would you watch TV together normally?
Yeah, we would watch sports or movies or occasional game show, Jeopardy game show.
And is there anything, would you say now, do your evenings look about the same?
We do still have dinner together, but there's just the joy. There's just not a lot of joy. There's not a lot of laughing. There's talk, but it's just really more discussion about what you did today or what he did today. What's on the agenda for tomorrow. There's just not a lot of joy.
And I'll ask a similar question about the weekends. What kinds of things did you and Sheila and the family do on the weekends?
Generally, on the weekend were the sporting events, whether it was soccer or volleyball game or softball game or basketball game. So our Saturdays were pretty tied up with the extracurricular activities of kids. And again, we ate our meals around the table as a family. And it was, on the weekends, it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner if we were home through the lunch hour. If not, we would grab something and we would share a meal. Sunday, we would go to Mass every Sunday, and then we'd go for lunch after Mass. And usually Sunday afternoon was football on TV.
And is the family a fan of any particular sports team?
The Dallas Cowboys. I know.
As to be expected.
I was going to say the Saints, but
that would be out of character.
yes.
And did you and Sheila have any sort of regular routines? I know you mentioned sometimes you would visit Susan or go shopping. Was there any sort of monthly outings that you would have together?
There was no regular, every third Saturday of the month we were going to do X. We did do a lot of shopping. We go to the mall. Normally we go to the mall at least twice a month, normally on a Saturday when there wasn't a whole lot going on. But just really the day-to-day routine. We shared chores, we shared cooking. That's it. That's about it.
Was there any favorite kinds of meals that you enjoyed cooking together?
We like cooking steaks. We like cooking spaghetti. We loved cooking gumbo. We liked cooking meals where it was a big volume of food, like a big pot of spaghetti or a big pot of gumbo or a big pot of chili. I think we enjoyed that more than throwing up some hamburger patties on the grill, you know.
Yeah. Mrs. Starmer, do you have a favorite memory of Sheila?
I would have to say that all my memories of Sheila at this point are my favorites. I can't pinpoint one more so than another. All of them are favorites.
And do you recall the last conversation that you had with Sheila before the accident?
It was probably the day of the accident. And I don't recall specifically, but I am 99% certain that I told her to call me when you get in that night, like I did every other time she went anywhere. I don't have any specific, it's that time frame is sort of a blur.
I understand. You had mentioned previously that Sheila's room has sort of been untouched since the accident. Have you been able to go into her room at all?
Yeah, I go into her room, just sit on the bed in the quiet. It's kind of cathartic at times.
Are there any particular things that you do that you feel sort of trigger some emotional pain for you at all?
The emotional pain, there is something every day that triggers it. And like I already testified, it could be the smell of something, or passing by her favorite restaurant, or going to the mall and going into, Hollister, which was one of her favorite places to shop. So there, it can hit you at any moment. It's just, there are things about her that trigger memories of things we did together when she was still alive.
And how would you say that you handle those triggers?
I cope as best I can. You just have to, you got to muddle through it.
And is there any particular places or things that you feel that you've avoided since everything happened?
A boat, any body of water. I don't do the lake anymore. I won't go. I don't want to see it. I don't want to think about it. That's probably the big one.
Mrs. Starmer, Sheila was a sophomore when she had passed. Are there certain milestones that Sheila won't ever be able to experience?
Graduating from high school, getting married, going to college, having children. To name a few.
And have you, for example, have you thought about her high school graduation?
Think about those milestones daily. Yes. As I see her class progressing through the years, that part of it may be even more difficult as the time grows from the date she was killed into the future. That's probably the most difficult, is watching her classmates experience those things without her.
And you mentioned a little bit about kind of how you had kept in contact with Sheila on Labor Day weekend. Was it typical? I mean, how often would she call you or text you?
You mean when I was out of town, or just on a
Yes.
regular day? We talked frequently. We texted more than we talked probably, but I like to call, she liked to text. But if I was out of town, we probably spoke at least once a day and probably texted. I don't know. It's innumerable. The daily text messages. But we spoke every single day at some point. Once, twice, 10 times. It just varied.
I'm gonna switch around a little bit more and talk kind of hopefully a little bit about Stephen Donovan. Did you have any sort of personal impression of Stephen prior to the accident?
No,
And do you recall if you ever met Stephen Donovan before?
I think I met him and his sister, yes, because the kids had, like I said, grew up together and we were friends with his parents.
Okay. And do you feel that Sheila felt pretty safe with Stephen and Stephen's sister, Stacy?
I have no reason to believe otherwise.
You had also spoken previously that you had some concerns about Stephen driving the boat without adults in it. Do you know if Sheila had ever been in a car with Stephen previously when he was driving?
Not to my knowledge, but I really don't know that when he was specifically driving. No.
And on the weekend of Labor Day, you had gone up to Massachusetts. Did Sheila ask permission to stay so that she could go to stay with the Donovans that weekend?
I don't recall her asking specifically. in those words, to stay with them or go spend Labor Day weekend with them. We were on a business trip and really, it was never the plan for the kids to come with us. So it's just sort of a coordinated effort to have the kids stay at various places while we took that trip.
Okay. And you said it was a business trip. Could you explain kind of what the general purpose of that trip was?
It was Ralph's company. So
Okay.
some type of a seminar or conference, or I can't remember exactly, but it was a Ralph thing.
And could you just explain kind of what Ralph does for a living?
He works for Morgan Building Systems, and he's in a sales leadership position. So I'm not exactly sure what he does day to day, but it deals with sales.
And does he frequently travel as a result of his job?
Yes.
Is it pretty common, would you say, for you to go on work trips with him?
No, it wasn't common, but who wouldn't want to go to Boston, So it was a good trip, and he worked late more than he traveled, but he did travel some, and no, I did not go on every trip with him.
Mrs. Starmer, since the accident, have you conducted an investigation into what happened?
The only thing that I did was hire an attorney to conduct an investigation.
Okay, but you haven't hired any
No,
PIs, for example?
no,
Okay.
no.
Do you know if have you spoken to anyone other than that the gentleman that was driving the fishing boat regarding the accident?
Other than the attorneys, no.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's going to be it for me. I have no further questions, and I would be happy to pass it off to Mr. Palmer if he has anything.
We reserve our questions for trial.
Okay, Joe, do you have any cross that you would like to do?
No, we'll do the same. We'll reserve our questions for trial.
Okay, perfect. We're going to go off the record at 11:25 a.m. Okay. Do you know, I know we were talking about this before about how to properly stop this. Do I just end the call?
Yeah, so I think if you click leave at the top, it'll say like leave, it'll say like, what are the two options? It says like leave meeting, end meeting, or like leave call.
Okay.
You click end call, and I think it should just like put you in a chat room with you, like in whatever channel you're in, and then it'll show it saving your transcript and recording at the bottom. and then you can like download them later, and it'll give you the transcript, like kind of how it looks on the live transcript as a Word document, and then it'll give you the video as a separate thing. And also, I'm trying to figure out right now, I think Teams has a function that lets you like edit the videos. So I'm trying to like get the timestamps for mine and edit out the portions where there were breaks and stuff. But anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mrs. Bang, for doing this and participating. I appreciate it greatly.
You did a good job.
Oh gosh. I don't know
I've
about
sat in
that, but-
probably, I don't know if Joseph told you, but probably I've been a litigation paralegal for about 35 years in some big plaintiffs firms. So I bet you I've sat in 350 depositions. You did good.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you for the. Okay, perfect. Well, I will get the transcript as soon as possible. And so but thank
Again,
you, guys.
I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can, whether it's cutting video, whether it's, if you want to like share the transcript with me and we can work on it, I can work on part of it, or just whatever you need, just text me.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Mhm.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
Thank
All
you.
right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.